to PJT Forging! Well, for the start of this video, how about I introduce you to the sort of thing that goes on inside my head when I'm trying to come up with an idea. I want to make an axe. What kind? A brand new one of a kind, something never done before. I'll take the best traits from all the best axes and combine them into a mega axe. What? So, you want to try and improve on a tool that's been around for thousands of years, that's gone through trial and error into the very specialised forms we know and use today? Yeah. Why don't you try something else? Like what? Well, how about instead of a super practical and probably impossible axe, you build a silly and useless one instead? Alright, I'm listening. How about a reverse axe? A wooden head and a steel handle, just for gigs. Yeah, I like it. That's a great idea. Thank you very much. I say, chaps, I'm loving the idea and all, but why can't it be both practical and ridiculous? What, like a reverse axe that can actually cut wood? Don't be stupid, it'll never work. Well, it could work if you actually applied yourselves for once. Aye, steady now. F*** off. Well, suit yourselves. I just didn't have you down as the quitting type is all. Screw that guy. He doesn't know what he's on about. You can't build a functional reverse axe. It'd just shatter immediately. Yeah, you're right. What a moron. Thanks. I'm gonna try and build a functional reverse axe. Right, I have to apologise for the mess. I've got a couple of projects on the go at the moment, but I think for this one we're going to start with a handle, and for that I've got this 50mm wide piece of EN8 steel. I think we're going to heat this up, squish it in the power hammer, and try and shape it into the main shaft of the axe. That's probably going to be the easy bit of this project. The head is going to be the tricky part, but we'll worry about that in a bit. So first things first, come on, let's light the forge. Well, this is as far as I got before I once again ran out of gas. This is obviously what I was going after, so I've actually got the rough profile pretty much there. I would have liked to have done a little bit more forging on it, and, you know, sort of rounding off the corners and things like that, and narrowing up this end particularly. But, you know, like I say, ran out of gas, can't be bothered to go and get more today, so instead I'm going to hit it with the angle grinder and do it the lazy way. Ready to rock. Well, this thing's too hot to touch at the minute, but I think I'm going to be leaving it here for today. I've got the rough profile ground in, as well as cutting the end off and getting the eye to the rough size and shape, although that obviously needs a lot more work. But yeah, I'm knackered, and I don't want to do any more. Well, it's the next day, and I've pretty much resigned myself to the fact I'm probably going to be doing a good few hours grinding on this, so I'm not going to bore you with the footage, I'm just going to get on with it, and I'll show you it when I'm done. Right, I've been at it now for a couple of hours, both using the flat disc sanding pads and also the belt grinder. I'm about halfway. As you can see, this side's pretty much finished. It's a bit too hot to touch. I haven't yet started on the other side. I don't know how well you can tell, but that side's still square. The problem I've encountered is I haven't forged this end bit perfectly straight. As you see, the handle runs down, but then it veers off to one side. It's pretty obvious when you look at it like that. I don't think, looking at it, I'm going to be able to grind that out, so I'm probably going to have to put it back into the forge, get some more gas, and try and knock this piece over a little bit. Well, seeing as we've already got the forge bit, I figured I might as well have bits up to mark now. I was going to wait until the end once I've got the whole thing shaped and then stamp it in, but to be honest, I'm not going to be grinding down that deep, so I figure I might as well do it now while I've got the forge hot. Well, I'm currently still waiting for this to cool down, but as you can see, ignoring that swell on the side, that is much straighter. The tip here is much more in line with the tip over there. And, like I say, we've got the touch mark put in as well, which looks good. So, all in all, happy with that. Right, there we go. I've got the rough shape ground in now. I'm just going to go over it with a belt grinder to get the scratches all going the same way. I think I'm going to leave this with a rough finish so that actually provides some grip in your hand, because otherwise it's just going to slide straight out and go flying across the garden. But yeah, that took all in all about 3 to 4 hours of grinding. Okay, we are done with the belt grind. I'm going to quickly acetone this and gun blue it before it starts to rust, and then I'm going to start worrying about how to fit the head up. But that came out awesome. I really like how this is looking. Last step is just to coat the handle in some WD-40 just to prevent it rusting. Right, with the handle done, it's time to move on to the head. I have carefully selected this piece of ash. The reason I've gone for ash is because, unlike in America where hickory is the go-to, we don't have hickory here, so most of our handles are made of ash. Therefore, if I'm trying to do a reverse axe, I figure that's the way to go. I've chosen this piece because it's got a very straight grain, as you can see here, which I'm going to be using for the cutting edge. Now, I did originally sketch out an axe head design on here. However, thinking about it, I've obviously left the blade very thin on this, and that's probably going to be quite a big contributing factor to whether or not the axe head splits. So instead, I think I'm going to do more of a sort of apple seed edge, where it sort of balloons out and comes to a point, rather than this more sort of hollowed out profile. So you can kind of ignore that. As you can see, I had a few different sketch ideas, but basically, bigger is going to be better. I've decided not to follow this pencil line. I'm literally just going to have the black outline round and then profile in line with the edge of the wood here. The hope being the more wood, the stronger it'll be. Now, as for the eye of the axe, I'm probably going to be doing more of a hammer eye rather than an axe eye. Most axe eyes come into a sort of point, actually kind of similar shape to this. However, obviously, if there's steel in here instead of wood, that could potentially act like a bit of a die and actually a wood splitter in and of itself. So by having a rounded off edge, I'm hoping that will provide more surface area for this wood to butt up against when I'm striking with the axe. Now, while ash is a very hard piece of wood in and of its own right, I'm not confident that the edge is going to hold up, or potentially even the eye, or maybe none of it will hold up. Therefore, I'm doing a bit of a cheat, and I'm going to be employing another piece of equipment in order to try and make this even harder. And that's where this comes in. This right here is a vacuum chamber, and this is a vacuum pump. You can see they're obviously connected together, and the idea is you put the piece of wood inside here in a flask with some stabilizing resin, and you draw all of the air out. Now, wood is obviously very porous, and so there's a lot of air trapped in here. So the idea is by applying a vacuum, you draw all of the air out of here, and you replace it with this stuff. Stabilizing resin. This is actually quite hard to get hold of in the UK and is pretty dear to import, so thankfully it's reusable. But again, you draw out the vacuum, replace it with this stuff, you cure it in the oven, and I'm hoping that will create a very hard finish on this already hard piece of wood. Now, unfortunately, I've done none of this before. There's a lot of first times in here. So the first thing I need to do is I need to check this piece of wood for moisture, and if the percentage is too high, I'll need to bake it in the oven for a few hours. And then we need to put it in the vacuum chamber and basically hope that it works. Hey, check it out. You can just about make out I'm wearing my slippers. Now this here is a moisture meter, and we basically put those two prongs into the piece of wood and it gives us a percentage for how wet it is. So let's give this a try. So 8.5%. Now ideally, from the text I've been reading, I want this to be below 5. Yeah, that's pretty consistent. Below 5 is good, lower is even better, so I'm going to try and be aiming for around 2%. But again, I've never done this before, so the first thing I'm going to do, I'm going to chop this down into the rough shape, and then I'm going to stick it in the oven to dry out. There we go, there's the revised shape. There we go. Well, it's the next day, and it looks like the bubbles have finally stopped rising. So, it's time to take it out of the vacuum and just let it soak for a further 12 hours. That's quite satisfying. Still smells like cheese on toast. Good enough. Right, the next step for the axe head is to obviously get rid of the excess resin. For that I'm going to be using my belt grinder. Not this belt though, that's a 36 grit. I'm probably going to be starting on a 240 and just taking it nice and slow. That is staggeringly beautiful. So I ended up having a bit of a brainwave. Rather than trying to constantly fit this up and fit it on, I decided because it's a steel handle, I can heat this up and I can burn it on. And now I've got a perfect fit on there. The only downside is it caused a lot of the resin to leak out, so there's quite a lot of cleanup required on here, which is okay because I'm probably planning on painting the axe head anyway to make it look kind of cool with the black handle. Yeah, all this needs re-bluing, and like I say, I need to tidy up the head. Here we go with the axe head now all tidied up and obviously installed. It's already solid. The last thing that remains is to put a wedge in here. Now, obviously on a steel axe, you can use either a wood or a steel wedge, but I figured just to go with the theme, I'm going to try and insert a wooden wedge. Now, somehow, I get the feeling that this is not going to work, but let's give it a try, I'm curious. Nope. To be fair, it got further than I thought it would. Considering it's only really cosmetic anyway, seeing as this is solid, I think I might keep it like that. Looks kind of cool. So you might be thinking that's one of the worst fit-up jobs you've ever seen. And you'd be right, that is terrible. Must try harder in future. Well, besides the poor fit-up, this thing was pretty much ready to go, and it was just a case of waiting for it to get light tomorrow to test it. However, we failed at the final hurdle. That is a problem. Somehow, I don't think this is going to survive, but I think we'll give it a test anyway, just for the lull, if nothing else. And then it'll be a case of giving this another try in the future, because obviously I can reuse the handle, that's absolutely fine, but this, I think that's going to be very lucky to survive even one impact. So we're going to be trying out with this mighty piece of wood as a test piece. What do you reckon are the chances of it surviving?
I would say 50-50.
50-50? Yeah. I'm less optimistic. I think even this tiny piece might ruin it. Ready? You see?
Yep.
Be careful not to catch my fingers now. Well, a bit broke. Ah, it's really difficult.
Gonna hurt yourself.
That's what I'm trying to avoid. Well, it actually cuts wood. Though granted, a very small piece. I think we'll have to wait till morning to try some thicker logs or something.
I'll do something funny.
Do something funny. Right, today is the day for the formal test. I'll be honest, I'm not convinced it's going to work, but we're going to test it to either success or destruction. Unfortunately, the heavens have opened. We're just going to have to make do. Let's see if this thing will chop some wood. Ah! Well, I've got to say, I am both very surprised and actually quite impressed at how successful that was. The edge, as you can see, has not held up particularly well, but it's stayed solid. It's a functioning axe of sorts. There it is, there's the undeniable proof. It has chopped wood. Thanks a lot for watching, guys. If you liked this video, like, comment, subscribe. As ever, you'll be doing me a huge favour, and I'll see you on the next one. Bye-bye!